The other one I want to get to, and there was something else. There was something else. It was VJ, but it was something else. Oh,
Zionism.
I know this. So there's an article. There's a Substack article by Alistair Crook, not Crawley, Alistair Crook, and the name of the article. I thought it was particularly good, even though it was infuriating for me to read it, and I'll tell you why as I show it. It's called "Last Phase Before Genocide: The Jewish State is Erecting a Ghetto." What a horrifying sentence. That's the name of the title. Last phase before genocide, the Jewish state is erecting a ghetto. What a horrifying sentence. Now, my rage at this article is part of the title. For one, they've been committing a genocide, and they've been committing a genocide for a very long time. Two, I get he's looking for impact, which I accept. But I think what annoys me is that they have been doing this. It's been clear that they've been committing a genocide. It's been clear the direction that they were going. And he makes the point in the article that genocide is not a singular process. Yes, agreed. That it's a buildup. And it's almost like you are creating a context that would allow you to even commit the genocide before you get to the final thing. And he points out that the point where you create concentration camps, well, you're in the last phase of it. Because it's easy to go from a concentration camp and say, hey, is there a difference between murdering them with bombs in mass where we're killing hundreds a day to make this process a bit better? Like, just death camps at that point. And he's making the point of saying, like, this is often the last phase of it. He went through the Armenian genocide, the Nazi genocide, and now we're with the Israeli genocide. Mm-hmm. I accept that. I'm deeply annoyed by people, Johnny-come-latelys, governments who come lately, who I don't believe them, by the way. I think those governments are fully on board for this. I think they're perfectly okay with this. And I think they've been okay with it all the way through. And now that they're seeing their public opinion changing, like, hey, we don't like seeing skeletal babies die, right? That's impolite to our European sensibilities. We don't like that. So let's put out a mealy-mouthed word statement saying that we don't like this. It's like, okay, dude, right? Like, put this in context. I mean, this shit is aggravating. So it looks like the fifth chamber of hell. But this is what people are living through to try to get food. That's insane. And you're talking about people who are walking miles for this. I want to show another case of one of the soldiers that was there that came back and gave testimony because it bothered him so much. Guy's Green Beret. And he comes back and he's like, dude, they are just murdering kids. And there's one particular story that got him because he talked to the kid. The kid apparently told him, thank you so much for the food. And it was like rice that he found on the ground or something and lentils. And Israel turns around and just opens fire, murdering the child.
Secure distribution site number 2. The aid had been distributed. A lot of people had left. You see behind there's a crowd of people still with their boxes, kind of getting ready to leave. And this little boy, his name is Amir, and he was standing, he was with the crowd, but he walks over, and you see that first picture on the top right. He kind of walks over to me, and he puts out his hand. And at first I thought like that he wanted more food or something, and I felt bad because I didn't have anything. But I was like, oh, I have nothing. And he puts out his hand, and so I beckoned him to come to me. I said, come here. And he reaches out and he holds my hand, and he kisses my hand. He kisses my hand, and he says, Shukran. You can see in this picture that this little boy is not wearing shoes. His clothes are falling off of him because he's so skinny. I put my hand on his left shoulder, and I looked at him, and he's looking at me. We're looking at each other in the eyes, and I say to him, people care. You're a human being, and people care about you. The world cares. That's not Hamas. That's not a Hamas fighter. And I looked at him and I said, the world cares. And he put down the little food he has. You notice he doesn't have a box. He doesn't have a box of food. He has half of a bag of rice that he found on the ground, a broken bag, half a bag of lentils that he found on the ground. And he was thanking us. Thank you. This little boy from where he came from walked 12 kilometers to get there, just to get there. 12 kilometers. Look at this boy. And when he got there, he thanked us for the remnants and the small crumbs that he got. And he sets them down on the ground because I was kneeling at this point, and he sets his food down.
Long story short, I'm not going to play the entirety of it because, I mean, it's grim. But effectively, when the kid goes to walk back to follow the crowd, Israel opens fire on the crowd with shot grenades, pepper spray, guns, bullets, etc. And when the dust settled, that kid was dead. That's the thing that got him to come out and say, this is effing outrageous. In which case he came out and made that testimony. That kid is not special. That has been happening day after day after day, going back for the last 2 years.
This man, isn't he a former Green Beret?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
People should understand that.
Yeah. So he is, like he's trying to, I guess what I'm trying to present is that Alex Crawley, I'm sorry, I keep calling the man Crawley, Alistair Crook. Alistair Crook, thank you.
Right.
He's hitting upon something where he is trying to show impact. I mean, this video will be monetized, but I wanted to name it in the way that I did because I wanted to kind of get across Jewish state is building concentration camps because that should have impact. And yet, I don't get this. Do you buy the European leaders really care about this? From my point of view, I don't think they care at all.
Oh, they only care about themselves, Jamal. Those people, they don't give a damn about the Palestinian people. They only care about themselves. But the thing is that there's so much anger out there right now that they're worried about themselves. That's how bad the anger is getting. I might have been on this program. I had a conversation on some platform. I was interviewed a few months ago. And after they began the, brazen outright starvation of the Palestinian people, I think this was back in March, early March.
It was here. I know where you're going. It was here. Please continue.
And I said, wait till people start dropping like flies. You see people, emaciated, skeletal people and children dying of starvation. Something's going to break. And something's broken. And as you may have already reported on your program, I'm sure you're aware of it, just 1 or 2 days ago, 2 Israeli human rights organizations, B'Tselem and Physicians for Human Rights Israel, came out and said that Israel is committing genocide. And Ali Abunimah, the chief editor of Electronic Intifada,
right,
has done just absolutely outstanding reporting on this genocide, came out and said today on X, where have these 2 human rights organizations been? It's been obvious since October 2023 that Israel has embarked upon a genocidal campaign in Gaza. Well, what finally pushed them over the edge, in a way I can kind of understand because they're operating in a very dangerous environment, but still, they're not likely to be put to death for expressing their views. B'Tselem, in 2017 said Israel is an apartheid state. They managed to survive that. So how much were they at risk really? Why did they wait so long? In any case, they'll have to answer that question one day. Hopefully they will. But the point here is this was a bridge too far. It forced them, even operating in that extremely oppressive environment, to accuse their own government of genocide. These are images that Israel will not recover from. These are images that are going to break a lot of souls in the West. And I think the European leadership is really concerned right now about revolution. Really concerned. And they should. Yes. Yes. There's already massive discontent in Europe, Jamal. Okay. You're talking about huge amounts of anger out there because the country, they're squashing democracy. They've, ever since the financial crisis, they've completely eviscerated democracy in Europe. They are now canceling elections when they don't like the outcome. Like in Romania, wherever, they're imposing austerity on the population. The cost of energy and therefore of living is going up dramatically for a failed proxy war in Ukraine. A lot more and more people here can see that they have cynically used the Ukrainian people and created this festering wound in the heart of Europe that is never going to be healed in our lifetimes. Why? Not because they give a damn about human rights. If they thought anything about human rights, would they be giving arms to Israel? Are you kidding me? Nobody believes that crap anymore. They're doing it because of imperialism. They're doing it because, and not because they want to empower and enrich the peoples of Europe, but imperialism empowers and enriches the elites. And for this, the Europeans are paying a very heavy price. So they're already on thin ice. You look at the approval ratings of people like Starmer and Macron and Ursula von der Leyen. She's got to be one of the most despised people in all of Europe, and she's amongst the most powerful politicians on the continent. So they're operating already in a very, very volatile environment. This could be, you remember, you don't need to have 50% of the people rise up in order for a revolution to happen.
Right.
You can do it with less than 5% of the population, man. So they're really, I think they're very concerned right now that something may break and they're not going to be able to control it. That's the only reason why I think it might be different. That's the reason. I don't think they give a damn about Palestinians.
Yeah, I don't think they do either. And from my point of view, this is just policy. Like, keep in mind, Joe Biden spent the entirety of his presidency screaming, we're doing everything in our power to free the hostages. We're trying to end the war. We're working tirelessly. And at the end of it all, you find out Joe Biden wasn't doing squat. In fact, the Israelis said, thank God that Joe Biden was president. God put Joe Biden in office in order to protect the state of Israel, because Joe Biden did not squat the entire time through. In fact, they said they were shocked that Joe Biden let them kill that many people, that they thought that the United States would get involved to stop them at a certain point, and the U.S. never did. So they just kept going. And so, when I look at Europe, I think the same thing. I was like, these are European colonists, and Europe is protecting their colony. And if they need to give mealy-mouthed lip service to, oh, we don't like you doing this, we're going to recognize the state of Palestine as a two-state solution. It's like, shut up. Like, I don't buy that nonsense. What they know is they have the United States effectively back in their colony. So whatever they put out, Trump came out when France said it, Trump said France doesn't matter. They're irrelevant. He is right, by the way. France is irrelevant. And Europe has made itself irrelevant because they've gone along with this nonsense the entire way through. And as you pointed out for Canada, the way they got rid of their politician because she was wearing fake color off. Well, again, like, these are either European states or the very least vestiges of European states, the United States being one of them, protecting their colony in the Middle East for geopolitical reasons. And anything that they come out with and say, short of, and even sometimes when they say we're stopping the weapons, it's like, okay, dude, you're not even sending the weapons. You're not even doing it. I don't know. It is very frustrating. That's all.
Ask yourself, why do they engage in this elaborate kabuki theater? Why have they spent so much time and energy trying to persuade people that they're trying to achieve a ceasefire and that they're so deeply concerned about the Palestinian people? Yeah, we see through it, but why do they invest all that energy? Because they do care about public opinion. People, they not because they are Democrats, but because they have to care about public opinion to save their own hides. They have, in order to control the populace, they have to deceive them. And when people wake up, they are keenly aware of this. When people wake up and understand how the game is actually being played and how little they matter in the calculus of these psychopaths who rule us, this could easily result in a social explosion that they cannot control. So that's why they invest all that time and energy trying to propagandize the population. If they didn't care about public opinion, they wouldn't do that. They say, yeah, this is who we are. This is who we are, man. We're colonizers, and we're not going to allow our colony to go down. And anybody who stands in the way, we're going to wipe them out. That's just who we are. No, they don't do that. They play this elaborate game designed to manipulate public opinion because they do care about being overthrown.
That's fair. I give you that. I give you that. Like you said, why would they spend that much time on mainstream media and everything else if indeed they didn't care about what's in your mind? And I forget who said it. They said the only thing they care about is what is in your mind. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because you had this piece where you pointed out Zionism. I think you said it's dead, or did you say toast? I think toast might have been my word.
Anyone would do. I said finished.
Okay, finished. Okay, I knew it was some adjective, right? But a lot of people don't buy that, and a lot of people don't believe it. I had one guy on my channel who was like, "Man, I don't buy this. I think this is nonsense." And obviously, part and parcel of the rationale for it is because you see them acting with impunity, murdering women, murdering dangerous babies, murdering, whoever they want, bombing countries, etc. Countries that give lip service to it, like Turkey, the humiliating Arab states that literally are effectively working in tandem with Israel. I mean, for God's sake, when the 12-Day War, as they call it, those states got involved to try to knock down Iranian missiles. We need to put that in context. And so you have populations in those states that are very angry, and yet the leadership of those states are perfectly fine with working with Israel as they murder women and children en masse. Let's put it in context, right? Mm-hmm. What are they missing when they say, yeah, dude, I don't see that? That's not what it looks like. It looks like they are going after Syria, going after Lebanon. They put the fact, to put this in context, this story came out. So I don't know if you've seen this, but they are, and what Crook, I was right the first time. What he was pointing to was that they were creating a ghetto that, for all intents and purposes, they've come up with a plan to steal or take Gaza. And the way they're doing it is making it smaller and smaller, and to the point where it's effectively a ghetto. And that's the idea that they're effectively going with. DD Geopolitics came out with it. For some reason, I got rid of that damn article. You have to take my word for it. I'll find the article. But I guess my point is that's where they were coming from that with. So when people look at this and says, well, America was able to commit genocide against the Native American population, then commit slavery 400 years later, nobody cares. Nobody acknowledges it. Turkey was able to commit genocide against the Armenian population. Nobody cares. Nobody says anything about it. Will Israel be the next one to be able to commit a genocide? And then 100 years later, nobody cares.
Well, first of all, let's just separate two issues. Okay, what I said was Zionism is finished. I was talking about the ideology,
political ideology, right?
Right. So, and its power to sway people, large numbers of people, its legitimacy, right? That is a separate thing from the question of whether the state of Israel can survive in its current form. The questions are related, but they're not the same question, right? Yeah. So the ideology could become completely delegitimized in the minds of the majority of people around the world and seen for what it is, which is a racist, genocidal ideology. But it takes some time for that to actually translate into the disappearance or collapse of the state of Israel. So these are not that they're related questions, but they're not the same question. So I believe that there was a General Assembly resolution, a UN General Assembly resolution. I can't remember, it was decades ago, where they basically said they declared Zionism to be a racist ideology. Mm-hmm. And this became, Israel pushed back hard, the United States pushed back hard, other Western states to that resolution, and it ended up being withdrawn because it's, oh no, Zionism is about the sanctuary of the Jewish people and the homeland, the land without a people. They came away from Europe and found sanctuary here, and the desert bloomed and all the rest of that nonsense. And that view was successful. They actually succeeded in getting a lot of states from the global south to abandon the position they had taken that Zionism is a racist ideology. I don't think that battle is, I think they've squandered that victory. It's over for Zionism as a legitimate ideological view. The world understands overwhelmingly that it's not just a racist ideology, it's a genocidal ideology. It's genocidally racist. And there is no way that they're going to resurrect this as a legitimate ideology. I just don't believe that. In the minds of some people, it still obviously has a very, very powerful grip. No question about it. But the large majority of the human population, especially in the non-Western world, now sees Zionism for what it is, and they cannot unsee what they have seen. So that's what I meant by Zionism is finished. It's the ideology has been delegitimized, and it is never going to be legitimized again. Now, will this translate into the collapse of the state of Israel? Eventually, I believe it will, but that clearly has a ways to go, because they still are, imposing their will, not just on the Palestinians, on the Lebanese and the Syrians, in the most brutal manner imaginable, and still supported in every imaginable way by Western governments with their immense military power. But has the collapse begun of the state? Yeah, totally has begun. It's just going to take some time to play out. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you, is it going to be in 6 months? Could be. Is it going to be in a few years? Maybe. But will it happen in my lifetime, assuming that I live to be the life of an average Canadian, 80 years old? You know, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm absolutely convinced of it. I cannot imagine that if I live to be that long, that the state of Israel in its current form will still exist. If it exists at all, it is going to be one state where people, at least nominally, maybe not in substance, as happened in South Africa. Okay, the apartheid regime collapsed, but you go there and there still has not been an equitable distribution of resources amongst the population. And the white elite has done a very effective job of preventing that from happening. But there is at least de jure, formally, equality in South Africa. Israel is either going to become that with its imperfections. Maybe it'll look like South Africa, okay, where the Palestinian population has formally an equal say, or even more than an equal say, but in actual, the economic reality for Palestinians is that they're still disadvantaged. It's going to either look like that, or what's going to happen is there's going to be a huge outflow of the Zionist Jewish population, which I believe has already begun, and Palestine is going to be resurrected from the ashes, and it's just going to be a Palestinian state. There will be some Jewish people there, but they're not going to be the dominant force in that society. Within a few years' time. And as I say, I would not be surprised to see, the state of Israel collapse within the next year.
Mm-hmm.
That would not shock.
And by collapse, you mean just from the number of people that are effectively leaving, or
there's violence in the street. Ehud Olmert warned publicly, former Israeli prime minister, that he warned about a civil war. There are others who have very prominent Israelis who have talked about that possibility. So there could be that kind of a collapse where there's so much civil strife that the state just explodes into chaos. There could be a slow, departure or accelerating departure of the Zionist Jewish population. And eventually the number of Zionist Jews who remain are simply so small that they're not able to control any longer the Palestinians. That could happen. There could be a kind of economic collapse. There could be a precipitous withdrawal of the United States forces from the region, because the United States has, serious problems and could itself experience a collapse. And if the Americans pull out, it's all over for Israel.
Yeah, that's it.
They're toast. They're finished. Done. And I can easily imagine that happening within the next few years, because the United States, as you all well know, Jamal, wow, it's hanging by a thread, man. There could be a financial crisis that could do in the global power of the United States at any time.
I'll go further. There will be a financial crisis in the U.S. And look, I'm not an economic person, but you can look at indicators, and if you are torching your population in regards to an economic sense, a population that's already poor, you're going into a recession, and those people are going to be poor while in that recession. So it's not like there's inflation, you have lower economic output. It's kind of the combination of that, plus people are poor. I mean, even you can look at the dollar, for example, how it's lost value. I think it's like 10%, if not more, of value. Everything that you buy is now more expensive, not just because of inflation, but also because of the weakening of the dollar. Now, when Trump was in office the first time around, or when Joe Biden was in office, Trump said, hey, that shows, how incompetent Joe Biden is. And then when he gets in office, he's like, this is great for business. I was like, okay, sure, bro, sure. We'll see. Look, I hope there's a reckoning. Honestly, God, I do. I swear to God, I do. I agree with you about Zionism as a political ideology. By the same token, you have true believers in the United States. You have the majority of the population of Israel still backs the state, or for that matter, still backs what they're doing to the Gazans, to Palestinians. Or for that matter,
I'm not sure. I mean, there was a poll that was done by Quinnipiac. I can never pronounce this. Quinnipiac University.
Quinnipiac, yeah.
Someday I go, where is that place, by the way? I never figured out where is Quinnipiac.
But I thought it was Pennsylvania, but I could be wrong.
Okay. So they do this poll in late May. They publish the results in early June. It shows that 60% of Democrats are more sympathetic they have more sympathy for Palestinians than Israelis. Only 12% have more sympathy for Israelis. And they show, so now it does show, this is before Epstein scandal blows up, okay? This is very important. And, Tucker Carlson coming out and Candace Owens coming out and saying, Epstein was Mossad. Epstein was Mossad. This is before this, okay? So all of these major Republican influencers, and it showed that even though a substantial majority of Republicans still had more sympathy for Israel, the number had dropped by 14 points from 2024. And the 2024 number for the Republicans was something like a 14% drop from the previous poll. So that's a very sharp decline. And the overall numbers, as I recall, was 37% of the total population, independents, Republicans, and Democrats, had more sympathy for, it's not a majority, it was 37%, much less than the majority. And the number who had more, percentage who had more was 34, as I recall. Okay, so they were almost at parity. And this was the lowest polling result for Israel in the history of this poll,
right,
which had been done for years. Okay,
yeah.
So this is before Epstein. Now you've got Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and all these other influencers going, Trump betrayed you. He's concealing these wealthy, he's protecting these wealthy individuals, extremely wealthy individuals, and quite possibly himself from exposure by suppressing the Epstein files. And all of this was an Israeli intelligence operation. So what do you think has happened to public opinion amongst Republicans? I mean,
no, to be fair, I meant the political space. Like, I agree with you that the public itself, there's been a change. There's been a change. I mean, when you get Marjorie Taylor Greene out here effectively saying, how can, you back these people murdering babies and children? Tucker Carlson screaming, oh my God, they're bombing Christian churches. This is so evil. Like, you do see a change, societal wise, just like you see in Europe, where there's a societal change. Maybe not Austria, maybe not Germany, but in other countries that are sane people kind of, that can see a baby get murdered and say, hey, I have feelings about the fact that the baby was murdered. Yeah, I agree. I do agree with you on that front. Dimitri, thank you for this. You have been fantastic. Great breakdown. Thank you for the conversation about Laith. Thank you for the conversation on this. One last question. Do you think they're going to really be able to create a death camp? Like, and I mean, in the sense of, we have a gate, we have people in that gate. We can now murder anybody who's outside of that gate. And let's be honest, we can murder anybody who's inside that gate also. Or we're going to kick these people out of the country and move them to somewhere else. Or do you think the ethnic cleansing thing of moving them somewhere is off the table?
Well, I just saw a report, just to be clear where things currently stand. I just saw a report in which an Israeli, I saw this on a Telegram resistance channel, talking about a senior Israeli military officer talking about that plan. And he said the plan had been tabled. It's been put on the shelf. We're not heading that direction. But maybe they will persist in pursuing that plan. So can they do it? I think they can. They can get a lot of the Palestinian population into a concentration camp, and they can kill a lot of them. But is this going to enable them to control Gaza? No, because there's hundreds of kilometers of tunnel networks, and the resistance is shown. Even Beit Hanun, which has been completely flattened and is probably the most vulnerable community in the entire Gaza Strip because of where it is situated. The Israelis keep trying to control it, and they keep getting killed. Right. Ambushes. So I don't see them solving that problem by putting a bunch of civilians into a concentration camp. That doesn't mean they're going to control Gaza. Can they kill a lot more people, Jamal? Oh, yeah, they can. Will they wipe out the Palestinian population? No. I don't think they're going to get away with it. I just don't think I don't think the world will allow it. I don't think the resistance will be defeated. I think Israel will collapse before that happens. But they could kill a lot more people.
From your mouth to God's ears. I am far more cynical about what the world would allow at this point. I mean, hard not to be. Yeah. You were the one who said, in fact, you're the one on the show saying, they are not going to allow skeletal kids to be walking around without them responding to that. You said these ghostly images are not going to, it's going to screw with them in a way that they're going to respond to it. And again, I agree with you in this case. I didn't believe you at the time. And I gotta be honest, I don't entirely think I believe you now, at least not in a real gut sense. I believe you in the sense of, okay, our audience or the members hate this. They don't like seeing these things. We need to respond to the fact that the people don't like seeing these things. I agree. That I totally agree on. And we are seeing a response in that sense. So you're right.
Yeah.
You nailed it. Dimitri Lascaris, my man, you are always welcome. Dimitri Lascaris, lawyer, journalist, activist from Montreal, Quebec. In 2020, Dimitri ran for the leadership of the Green Party in Canada. He is host of Reason to Resist. You can check him out on his channel on YouTube. Dimitri, thank you for this, man. I really appreciate it. You be safe, okay?
Thank you. Thank you for the conversation. Take care.
Absolutely. All right. Always appreciate talking to